Okay. Well, yeah. I am one of those rare creatures that knew from childhood that I wanted to be a journalist. I wrote my own. Well, it was a little publication called Fifth Grade Weekly that I did on my own yellow plastic typewriter and had my teacher, pass out to the class and everything. So I've kind of known that I always wanted to be in journalism, and so as I studied journalism in college, I was, the real focus of my education was basically on the product of journalism, and getting your facts right and verifying everything and being accurate and fair and pursuing the truth, and all of those qualities, timeless qualities, are still as relevant today as they ever have been. But I think because newspapers and TV stations and radio stations had relative monopolies until the internet gave news consumers so many more options. I think before that enhanced competition changed the game. I think a lot of journalists, myself included, could sort of focus more on the product of journalism, the craft of journalism, and there really wasn't the urgency to earn our audience's attention because there were so few options that news consumers had. You could subscribe to the paper, you could tune into the evening news, you could turn on the radio, on your commute to work, but that was pretty much it. And so it just was, there was, I think, it was really kind of a function of the information monopoly that legacy news media had, that journalists, for journalists, the audience was sort of an afterthought. It was, we focused on, in my case, focused on writing my story and sending it to my editor on time, and then, seeing if they had any questions, and then pretty much calling it a day. And there just was not a real mechanism for feedback with the audience. So when things started to turn for me was during the latter part of my career at the Dallas Morning News in the mid 2000s. In one instance, I was the interim transportation reporter, and there were these huge debates over toll roads. I think I mentioned that during the talk that Joan Hunter was among my sources during that time. But and there was I was down in Austin covering these legislative debates, and there was a politics blog where I would essentially write short versions of my stories that were going to appear in the next day's paper, and I would get automatic feedback from readers on the blog, and that would inform my reporting and writing for the next day's story. It was the first time that I was sort of getting real-time feedback from readers before the final product of journalism was finished, and that really opened my eyes to what's since been an ongoing journey to explore more about how to involve the audience in the journalistic process, at every step, and not just after something is published. But where I really developed an appreciation for it was at SMU. I came to SMU to launch a student newsroom, the Convergence Newsroom, we call it here, and we basically started a news site from scratch called the Daily Mustang that from 2008 to 2011, built an audience of about 50,000 page views a month. We were competing with the campus newspaper, the Daily Campus. We established our own social media accounts. And part of the thrill of that was, we had live. We'd bring in newsmakers and have live Q&As. Through live chats. students would, go out and break news on Twitter, and then, get a real thrill when, the audience was responding to it, and even other local media outlets were responding to it. And so that whole Daily Mustang experience of launching a new news outlet and watching my students discover the new landscape of journalism and audience engagement, that's really what drove me to want to go out and spend more time in newsrooms and do a deeper dive into this whole thing. And so that's led me to apply for some grants and some time off from my job at SMU to actually go out and visit all these newsrooms and try to put together a synthesized work that tried to put all this into perspective.